So guys, let's just talk about Loki episode 5. I'm going to do a breakdown of a lot of things that I liked in this episode. It's not going to be a speculative episode on like what's gonna happen in the next episode or something like that. I'm just going to point out and discuss the things I loved the most about this episode, and it's not going to be a story wise point to point breakdown. I'll just talk about a lot of things I loved about this episode. The first thing that I loved and can't stop thinking about since I watched this episode is the blanket scene. The blanket scene is so amazing. I love the way Tom Hiddleston emoted his blushing and everything. That's the best scene in the entire series for me. No, it's not an action scene. That's the best emotional scene in the entire series till now. And dare I say, my favorite scene in all the MCU live action series is Till the Point. I live for that moment. I will be watching that moment again and again. It's that moment and the moment from episode 3 when Loki explains how love is a dagger, and there is a lot of reference to a dagger in this episode, and love is a dagger, and the way Kid Loki gives him the dagger also kind of signifies that these Lokis stick with each other. They betray each other all the time, but that's what also Loki it's Loki's characteristic that there are going to be a lot of betrayals and everything. But I love this point that love is dagger, and he is given a dagger by another Loki, so they are not lonely and they're together. And the blanket scene is so amazing. It makes me blush every time I watch it, and I just want them to kiss at the end of the series, at least before they leave, or maybe they could go to a different timeline together. I would love that for Loki. I would really love that for him, but we never know. But I just love how, just get me someone who looks at me like Loki looks at Sylvie. That is my bar, my standard for relationship now, because it's just amazing that if the standard is that high, I don't think I'm going to be forever single. Let me already say that, but I'm fine because I'll keep watching that scene again and again. And about Loki and Sylvie, in this episode, Loki is the one who says that we should go ahead and fight and kill that monster, void monster, Asiom, or whatever is his name. He is the one who wants to kill it, and Sylvie is the one who says that, oh, I don't want to kill that monster, I want to go beyond it. I will enchant it and move ahead. So she is going for non-violence and using her magic, and he is the one who is going for violence and killing, which is the exact opposite of what happened in episode 3. So it more and more so ever goes to show how alike they are and how interchanging they are. Loki learned to kill the thing from Sylvie, and Sylvie learned to move ahead by using her magic from Loki. Or maybe not, because even in first episode, Loki's reaction is always to kill the thing he hates, because he also says that he's going to burn the TVA to ground, and Mobius is going to do that, which is I like that. I think we will see that in series 2, not in this series, because there's just one episode left. I don't know what all will they be able to show in this first episode. So that interchange of Loki and Sylvie's character arc shows that they are made for each other couple, and I love them. Find me someone who looks at me like Loki looks at Sylvie. That is what I've got from this episode. So the third main character in series, Mobius. I think we all were very happy to see Mobius back, and he saved her. And he's right, wherever he goes he finds a Loki. I mean, there are so many Loki, but still Mobius is so sneaky, man. I mean, when they hug Tom Hiddle, I mean, when Loki and Mobius are hugging, he says, "You're my favorite," but he is saying that looking at Sylvie. So it's not sure whether he, I mean, it's a sneaky move that when he is making Loki think that he's saying that to him, but at that same time he's pointing at Sylvie to that you are my favorite. So that is another sneaky moment by Mobius, and I think it will be, I'll be very curious to see what is going on in TVA when he is there. So next thing is Loki, Alligator Loki. I mean, I love Alligator Loki. I'm going to, as I said in the watch party watch along video, I am going to buy a Alligator Loki thing. I mean, a statue or something, or I will, if it's not available anywhere, I'm going to 3D print it, and at least there will be a poster in my background for Alligator Loki. That's how much I love him. I loved when he ate President Loki's arm. He bit it and fought back. And I also love how you know, classic Loki is the one who who can speak Alligator Loki's language. But I also think, what if he is created by classic Loki only? Because Mobius is like, I don't know, I have never seen a alligator variant, and he classic Loki is the only one who can speak what he has done. So maybe because we know classic Loki is so strong and he has such strong magic abilities, he might be able to create a version of him just so that he is not alone. I mean, from his story we learned that he was alone, and I mean, I'll talk about the whole character arcs of all the Lokis in next coming thing. So let's talk about President Loki. Till then, I'll even from the trailer I loved the Tom Hiddleston's how he emoted being betrayed and confused, like that expression from trailer. I loved it. It is so adorable and kind of villainous, but at the same time adorable. But I was thinking that maybe President Loki, our current variant, Loki variant, is going to become President Loki in the limbo, but it was a different version of Loki, and as cunning, as villainous and mischievous as our main Loki he was. But it was kind of a misdirect, just a little bit nudge of that character, not a full-blown Loki arc. But it was nice to see him, and nice to see how every Loki betrays each other, even though they are all Lokis, still betray each other. So I loved how they fought, and how classic Loki used his deception to create a sneak pathway for them. I liked that. And I liked how Loki Gator beat 8 President Lokis, and that was a really nice moment. But I'm really not mad about having less of President Loki arc, because we got to see a lot more of classic Loki. And I was, from that costume itself, I wasn't expecting this much of arc and this much of power and this much of great character arc for classic Loki. But classic Loki was amazing. When classic Loki explains how he got away from Thanos killing him after Ragnarok, that was amazing. I mean, it goes to show how powerful he had become, because he was the one who you know, kind of used his magic more than his dagger. He knew the value of magic is more powerful than the dagger, so that's why he survives. But he only survived because he stays a bad guy. So the timeline, TVA timeline, does not deflect because the Loki escapes from something. It deviates because the Loki starts to become a good character. So I think in the Avenger timeline arc, Loki was still a good guy from the beginning, but he was thrown in bad situations from Avengers in the jail and then in the Ragnarok. He is still going through just survival mode because he escapes using the Tesseract and goes away, and Thanos is not behind him, not Thor has not arrested him, so he was going to be a good guy even from beginning. That is my take. So that's why TVA got him. And I hate TVA because they have designated a role for everyone. You can't be a good guy. Why can't Loki be a good guy? That is why I hate TVA. So there are so many Lokis who wanted to be a good guy. I think there must be Lokis who were worse or even villainous than what was intended for Loki. That's why they got pruned as well. But there has to be, a person should choose how they want to be, good or bad or evil, whatever. TVA can't choose it for them. And I like that Kid Loki, Alligator Loki and Classic Loki were all good guys. So it gives me the moral of the story is that people can change, and Loki is mischievous, but he's the good guy. It's just he was god of mischief and god of chaos, so wherever he goes, pain ensues, but he can channel that pain and bring down the bad guys. He can bring down the pain to the bad guys, not the good guys. That could happen. So 3 cheers for Loki. So we've discussed about their character arc already. So let's talk about all the different similarities between all the different Lokis. So we have so many versions of Loki there. It's going to be a Easter eggs treasure mine right there. So I'm gonna go and search all the types of Lokis that are there in the episode, and their fighting was so chaotic. It was fighting amongst each other, but it was chaotic at the same time, and I love chaos. Loki has to be chaotic. That's what makes him good. And I've talked about that how Tom Hiddleston's emoting is at Oscar level. It's President Loki expression is really adorable. I'm going to make it my this video's thumbnail. That's going to be that. So Kid Loki is very cute. He is benevolent and he is true leader type. I mean, if he killed Thor, means he is really powerful. But Thor might not have got so much power at that time because he was a kid Thor as well. So he's not totally powerful. But definitely, I think Kid Loki has a lot of potential, and we might see him in the series 2. I want to see him in the series 2 of the show. Classic Loki, by far the best part of the episode. I mean, blanket scene is my favorite scene of the episode, but Classic Loki is going to be my favorite character from this series. It was going to be Mobius for a long time, but we will see Mobius in the next series too, I guess. So for this series, this will be a Classic Loki resurrection and Classic Loki series for me, episode for me, because it's just show how much powerful he is. And when Loki was talking to him, it was a lot like going into therapy, because he was talking to a version of himself, so they could relate a lot. So he learned a lot from Classic Loki version of himself, that how he how his character is still a good character. He misses his brother. How he survives is a lot similar to how Loki survives all the time. And TVA did not allow him to be, but it was Loki's character was amazing, and this Classic Loki is the one who made Tom Hiddleston's Loki realize that Loki is lot more powerful than he thinks, and he says that we are lot more powerful than we think we are, because the way classic Loki recreated whole kingdom of Asgard for a distraction was amazing, and that shows how good at heart he was, that he was willing to sacrifice himself so that younger versions of him could survive. That is also another form of love. It's not just Sylvie and Loki's love, but Loki's I mean, just as in the episode, like us as an old person, us as an alligator, us as a kid, and us as a Thor. I like that. So you know, Loki as a old guy sacrificing himself for the younger versions of him to survive is also a form of love. And that was amazing how he recreated the whole kingdom, and the way he went out saying glorious purpose, that gives so much weight to that line, the glorious purpose, that Loki always believed he had some meaning in life, some task to do, and that task was heroic. So classic Loki was a glorious hero whose purpose was to save young Lokis from going extinct. So basically, I believe even though Kid Loki was the king, classic Loki is the reason why he survived, because every time Kid Loki gets in trouble, it's the classic Loki who gets him out of it. And they are ready to live in this void land end of the time, but because that was their home, it was Kid Loki's home, and they were happy there. I liked how he protected Kid Loki and young Loki, and we've already talked about Kid Loki, and I like classic Loki so much I can't even put it into word. I was very sad to lose him, but I hope to see him again. I hope we don't lose him at all, because I mean, glorious purpose was the best last line till point. I mean, I would put it near the I love you 3000 line. It was amazing, and because Loki always survives, and I hope he survives somewhere too. And he was the Loki's father figure he was missing, so I hope he survives. I like how Sylvie pointed out that Asion is the dog guarding the castle, and I don't think Kang is in that castle end of the time, because I don't think he will be that powerful. I am not aware of the comics, but I hope it's not him. I want it to be something even more powerful. Or maybe that could be the case, that sometimes the guard dogs are stronger than the castle they are trying to protect. So we don't know what is beyond the end of the time. So whatever is at the end of the time, as Sylvie said, if they create a passageway from ahead of the end of the time castle, they will be able to undo TVA. So it will be interesting to see how they undo it. So let's talk about the TVA things. Let's go away from the junkyard and the limbo and enter into what happened in the TVA. So when Sylvie and Ravonna Renslayer are talking, I think Ravonna is sincere in her quest of finding out who is ruling TVA, but she is not a good person, because she keeps everyone unaware of their own their true nature and everything. So she is also a bad person, but at the time we don't know what her timeline was. So she might be trying to give these people a good life away, because they could either have been pruned and sent to die, or could have been there in TV and continue to live. So maybe her reason of going on with this is because she wants people to live, but killing of timelines, why she supports it, we don't know. But as Mobius say that if the end reason is something that you could go on for, and think that all means to achieve that are if you're that much conviction that what you are doing is so right, and you could do it by any means possible, like Mobius thinks how pruning is okay, because the sacred timeline needs to be protected anyhow. There must be some reason why Ramona does it too, but I don't think she believes in the sacred timeline bullshit. She just wants a throne, a power, and a stable kingdom. She wants to rule a kingdom, and that's why she's doing it. So that's why I even find, even if she is not telling everyone that they are all variants, she's not doing it for malicious purpose. She's just doing it so that there is certain stability in her empire. So sometimes, truth is not truth could be bring lot more chaos than, and a lie could bring a lot of order. So she is doing it to bring a lot of order in her organization, and whole TVA is just a bureaucratic order thing. So that's why she's not telling the truth to anyone. But she's also cunning, and now she could not beat Mobius at this deception game, but she does play a deception game well with Sylvie, and Miss Minutes is on it as well, because Miss Minutes stalls for time to find a file so that TVA agents could back her up and arrest Sylvie. So she gives them that much time, but I think it was Ravonna who points Sylvie out to self-prune herself. I think Miss Minutes is the one who contacted other TVA agents who were available, sent them to help for Ravonna by that she could arrest Sylvie. But maybe she was really honest. She does want to know, but she is not going to destroy them and create a sacred timeline. But Miss Minutes knows that if she finds out, if Judge Renslayer finds out who are the TVA owners, she is not going to rebel. So she lets it be. If there was a chance that Judge Renslayer was on Sylvie's side all along for the reason of destroying who owns the TVA, she would not have helped Ravonna as well. So so we see how Sylvie escapes and sacrifices herself so she gets to find Loki, and the way she is reminded that she needs to go to Loki is because that is the moment she thinks of when she was the most happiest, because Ramona says, I will put you in a time cell where you are the most happiest, and she chooses that moment. She can't go back to Lamentis, of course, but she goes back to find the real Loki. So I found that really nice. I mean, it just solidified that theory that Sylvie loves Loki, and I come back to the blanket scene. I just love it so much, that blanket scene. I'm gonna watch it again and again, and I just want a happy life for Loki and Sylvie together on some island where they could, I mean, I don't know how their offsprings would be like. I mean, kid Loki. Can they have kids? I don't know. I mean, but that's all. I mean, Miss Minutes is not Agatha for me. I mean, she's not, it's not going to Miss Minutes all along, but she is a cunning AI as well. So I will not trust her as well. So in the next episode, let's see what Mobius does when he enters TVA. Do all other TVA agents arrest him, or what happens? And is the Kang the biggest villain? Are we going to see Kang the Conqueror or someone else? I wish it is someone else, someone more powerful than Kang, because I don't think Kang is that powerful, because he's a person, he's a guy. he doesn't look like alien, and I think if there is going to be some powerful entity, it has to look like a big monster, right? I don't know. Maybe he could give a Kang, but it would be, I don't like it. Maybe I would change my mind in next episode. So let's see what happens in next episode. So that is all, guys. That is my breakdown of favorite movements and review of Loki. And just after this, I'm going to start my Hotstar account and watch the blanket scene again and again. I don't know how to clip videos from Hotstar. If you guys know how to make a clip and gifs of videos, please send the wiki how in the comments down below, and I'm going to try to do that with the blanket scene, because I love it. I stand for it. So bye bye, guys.